I felt the anxiety when I walked into the house. They had to get out of that house because that payment on that loan was going to be too much pressure for them. Hey everyone, Kevin A. Malsh, Pine Financial Group, where we work together so you succeed. If you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, please do so. Also hit that notifications button so you get notified each time we have great new content coming out. If you're seeing this on Facebook, be sure to hit like. Today I'm going to be talking to you about two different ways to buy properties using no money down. The first way, and the way that I got started in this business, is a lease option. I love this strategy because it's very simple to understand. So you as a newer real estate investor can grasp it. You can go in to negotiate the deal and have some confidence that you know what you're talking about. And that confidence is huge when you're negotiating a creative real estate deal. The other reason is it's easy for the seller to understand. So they're more likely to accept your offer if they can understand it. This is a pretty simple concept. The way it works is you go into a property, you lease the property from the seller for a certain period of time with the right to buy it sometime down the road. I like to do 10, 15, 20-year options. And the benefit of this is I could pay my seller full price for their house knowing that I'm locking that price in today and I don't need to exercise that option for several years down the road. Not one time have I ever received a request for a deposit or a down payment negotiating deal like this. Why would a seller ever do this, might be the question. My last deal that I did, the one that's coming to my mind right now, my seller was moving to Chicago to go to graduate school, and he just had a baby and his wife was really stressed. I felt the anxiety when I walked into the house. They had to get out of that house because that payment on that loan was going to be too much pressure for them. So I was able to take over that payment with a lease, and the lease payments covered their payment. They were thrilled. I ended up making a lot of money on that down the road. The second way to buy property with no money down would be a subject to transaction. What we're doing here is we're buying a property subject to whatever financing is already in place on the loan. So it's important to understand whenever you have a property that has financing on it, there's three different documents that are involved here. The first one is you have your deed. It discloses who the owner of the property is. So whoever's on the deed owns the house. The second one is the note or the promissory note. That's I'm borrowing money from you. I'm promising to pay you back under these terms. The last one is a deed of trust or a mortgage, and that's depending on what state you're in is what document that's going to be. And that's the teeth. That's the lien on the property. That's the document that allows the lender to foreclose if you default on that promissory note. So three separate documents, and oftentimes newer investors confuse the deed and the deed of trust if you're in a deed of trust state. So it's important to know that they're very different and separate and not tied together at all. So in a subject to transaction, I could actually take the deed, take title of the property, and leave the note and the deed of trust or the note and the mortgage in place. Now this is a big benefit to a seller that has to get rid of their house, and the only reason or way you would do it is if you get control, total control by taking ownership of the house. So I would negotiate this something like this. Mr. Seller, how about if I'm able to buy your house from you and take over these payments so I could relieve that payment pressure from you? And then I've never once had a seller ask me for a down payment on one of those either. The last subject to transaction I did, I actually bought 3 houses from her. Her son had autism, and she bought a big portfolio of rental properties thinking that cash flow was going to help support her and her son with the autism. Well, it turns out rental property, sometimes the cash flow isn't as good as you see it on TV. So the cash flow was not good enough to support her. She had to get rid of them. She had to sell these properties. So I was able to pick up 3 of them that way. So there you have it. Let me actually share this with you. The lease option is the way that I got started in this business. And I decided to go ahead and write a book about that. In my book, I tell you my stories, my successes and failures, which there were a lot of them, all the way that I negotiate with the sellers, how I find the sellers, and all the contracts and forms that I use to put those lease options together. You can find that. It's $8 on Kindle. The Kindle version is $8, 45dayinvestor.com. Please leave me a comment below on what do you think about these two strategies to buy properties no money down. And if you haven't yet, check us out at pinefinancialgroup.com.